When someone is brutally murdered and left to die, they did not choose to die. They didn't get to call their family member prior to their death, nor did they get to choose their last meal. Reported by the Florida Department of Corrections, death row inmates are allowed to choose their last meal under $40 and get one last phone call prior to being put to death. Today I'm going to talk to you about the death penalty. In a short time, I'll present some facts that support the pros and cons of the death penalty and get some of your feedback on thoughts on whether or not the death penalty should be kept in society. Pros of the death penalty. The death penalty is a deterrent to crime. According to Robert Tanner's article in the AP National Writer, each execution deters an average of 18 murders, according to a 2003 nationwide study by professors at Emory University. Speeding up executions would strengthen the deterrent effect. For every 2.75 years cut from the time spent on death row, one murder would be prevented. The death penalty restores order in society. According to Jay Bestwetsky, society is justly ordered when each person receives what is due to him or her. Crime disturbs this just order, for the criminal takes from people their lives, peace, liberties, and worldly goods, in order to give him or himself undeserved benefits. Deserved punishment protects society morally by restoring this just order, making the wrongdoer pay a price equivalent to the harm he or she has done. The death penalty gives victim families closure. The death penalty gives victims' families peace in knowing that the person that harmed their family member can no longer harm anyone else again and has paid his or her price. Cons of the death penalty. Does the death penalty really deter crime? According to the Death Penalty Information Center, in 2010, there is a 25% lower murder rates in states that do not have the death penalty versus states that do. The prices for the death penalty cost the state more than life in prison. In California, housing death row inmates is almost twice as expensive as housing someone in a general prison population. A trial can run up to $1 million per case, up to 20 times the cost of a murder trial where prosecutors are not asking for capital punishment. A study released by the Urban Institute forecasts that a lifetime cost to taxpayers for capitally prosecuted cases in Maryland since 1978 are $186 million. That translates to 37.2 for each of the state's 5 executions since the state reenacted the death penalty. There are and have been innocent people on death row. Unfortunately, there are people on death row that are innocent. They land on death row before we develop DNA testing due to eyewitness misidentification, unvalidated or improper forensic science, false confessions and admissions, government misconduct, bad lawyering, and informants. As of October 1st, 2012, there have been 141 exonerations in 26 different states that were serving time on death row. There's no way to tell how many people have been executed since 1976 that are innocent, but there is a handful since DNA testing came out that have been proved indefinitely innocent post-execution. According to Raul Quintero and Mark Schlackman from the Tampa Bay Times, Florida has reversed more death sentences than any other state. Now I'm going to go on to some questions. Raise your hand if you are for the death penalty. Now raise your hand if you're against the death penalty. So now I'm going to ask some tough questions. If, God forbid, one of your family members was murdered and the murder was put on trial, would you want them to serve life in prison or receive the death penalty? Yes.
I want them to receive the death penalty.
And why?
Because I don't think they deserve to live.
Okay. Anyone else?
I feel like there's more torture in living in a cell for the rest of your life as opposed to being let out of the world. So the longer you stay, the longer you have to suffer.
Okay. Now, if you hypothetically committed a murder and were put on trial, would you want to serve life in prison or receive the death penalty? I'm going to ask you since you are against.
I would like to receive the death penalty.
You would? Okay.
In this case, I would like to receive the death penalty.
You would like to receive the death penalty? All right. Now, do you believe that death row inmates should be allowed to choose their last meal?
No.
No? Why not?
That they don't deserve a choice. They made a bad decision. They don't deserve any good choice.
I agree.
Today I went over the pros and cons of the death penalty with you, and I opened up a discussion as a class to speak about the topic. After doing much research, I am against the death penalty. I believe it is not cost efficient. It does not have it lacks a system that prevents innocent and mentally ill people from being put to death, and I also believe it is assisted suicide in some cases.